Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Facebook Live. My name is Kylie, and today we are diving into our LEPSL 510 and 530 discussion board MVP interview. Thank you all so much for joining us today, whether you are here with us live or if you are watching the replay. Please go ahead and utilize the chat feature and say hello and let us know you're here. And with that, I will go ahead and kick it over to our academic director, Dr. Erik Fritsvold.
Thanks so very much here, Kylie, and thanks to everyone out there in the law enforcement and public safety leadership community for carving out some time to join us here on the Facebook Live or again on the replay. As noted, my name is Dr. Erik Fritsvold. I've had the honor and the privilege of being the founding faculty and academic director for our 100% online Master of Science degree in law enforcement and public safety leadership right here at the University of San Diego. And the purpose of us coming together here is to, quite frankly, celebrate the heck out of 3 of our students because they deserve it. We firmly believe not only are students the heartbeat of our program, but our discussion boards are potentially the heartbeat of our program. The goal of the discussion board is to mimic that free-flowing exchange of ideas, just like you would get in a traditional brick and mortar setting. So this is a peer-driven award, so it should mean even that much more. So their peers have recognized these 3 students for going over and above, providing insight and depth of analysis on the course material. So please join me in congratulating 3 of our best. We will start with our winner from the LEPSL 510 Communication Skills for Law Enforcement Leaders course out of the Reidsville Police Department in North Carolina. Sharra Carter, our BMVP. Welcome, Sharra, and congrats.
Thank you, sir.
And we actually have co-winners from our next class. They were tied in votes, so we get to celebrate them both out of the LEPSL 530 course. That's our Public Safety Law in a Dynamic World course from the Edmonton Police Services out of Canada, Han Ho. Han, huge congrats and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And our co-winner from that LEPSL Public Safety Law class from right up the road in the Santa Ana Police Department, Matt Sorenson. Matt, thank you again for taking the time here.
Thank you very much. It's an honor.
So I've provided some background and context on the DBs. Let's see how these folks actually won these awards. So Sharra, I'm going to start with you. Clearly your peers recognized your engagement. What motivated you just to be so frequently and meaningfully engaged on these discussion boards? Where'd that motivation come from?
It's just the love of communicating with all my peers, and it's also just to put the course in perspective, looking at over 200 years of experience in law enforcement in that one course. So it's just, I love getting the knowledge and sharing some of my advice, they're sharing some of theirs to me, and just communicating with everyone. It was just really enriching. And like you say, the discussion board is basically the heartbeat of the program.
I appreciate that. I hadn't thought of it as 200 years of experience right there at your fingertips. I appreciate that. Han, same question. Where's the motivation come from? What motivates you just to be so darned engaged?
I think it's more on the curiosity of the why behind a lot of those questions posed. Not just the why for other classmates and all, but also just my own reflection of why I'm answering in a certain way. So it's delving deep into that, which I believe is kind of helps understand more of the material, understand more of why things are going on in regards to the policing world. So
I appreciate that, the why factor. I'm going to transition here a little bit, Matt, a little bit more of a nuts and bolts question. So you're the commander of a pretty large agency. If your job's anything like mine, the more you go up the administrative ladder, the more your time gets stretched thin and you're pulled in a million directions at once. In that context, how did you find time to be so engaged on the discussion boards?
Well, for me, the biggest thing was I thrive in structure. So I would carve out time every day, usually at the beginning of my day, because I'm usually in my office about 7 a.m. And the first thing I do would go to the discussion boards and read what was posted the night before, respond to anything, push my responses out. I always responded early as soon as the module opened, just to kind of, one, then I'm not repeating anybody. And 2, I get it knocked out, and then I get the advantage of actually listening to people and reading posts from people that know more than I do, and responding back to them, getting their perspectives.
I absolutely love that strategy. I think an engagement early and often, I think, is a key to success, all things online education. Sharra, I have a version of that same question for you. It's my understanding that for a segment of your time as a student in the program, you were part of your agency's tactical team. So I'm an outsider looking in, but my understanding is you have the normal demands of a profession that responds to an emergency, to emergencies. But then as part of your tactical team, you're subject to call outs and even another layer of unpredictability on top of that. So with that as the context, again, how are you so engaged with so much unpredictability around your daily schedule?
Like you mentioned, our job is unpredictable. Is that I try to post early and post often and get as much information as I can early in my classwork. And like you mentioned, the pro tip, the module opens up on Friday. So I try to get all my information together and print off the reading material and get that early, just in case a call out happens or anything like that. I am fortunate my schedule is a Monday, Friday, 8 to 5. So that allows me a little more flexibility to get my work assignments done throughout the week as well as the weekends.
That's great. And I love the pro tip phrasing. That's something my daughter's trying to get me to say more. So the pro tip is stay ahead of the game. And if you're working 2 or 3 days ahead, if you are subject to a call out or some major emergency happens, you still have plenty of time to get to your coursework, hopefully without causing additional stress. All right, Han, turning it over to you. I've had the pleasure of working directly with you in the classroom. And if you don't mind me saying so, your perspective from Canada adds a layer of richness and provides for a kind of compare contrast model with the course substance that I find really rich and interesting. Can you just talk a little bit about your experience as an international student?
Yeah, it's unique in that, especially between the Canadian and the American criminal justice system, there's a lot of similarities. So it allows me to kind of understand some of the material, but at the same time take like a outsider's point of view and appreciate what eventually will come towards Canada. Like, I don't know down in the States, but some of the old saying up here is whatever happens in the States will happen in Canada in 3 to 5 years. So it's almost like looking at a crystal ball in a way. So seeing what works, what doesn't, why it is occurring. Definitely have more appreciations to see the thought process behind especially current issues that law enforcement is facing. So yeah.
I really appreciate that perspective. I think with the landscape of law enforcement changing so quickly, whether it's drug policy changes in Oregon or things happening internationally or use of force changes, when it's experienced one place, our program has the advantage of tapping into that network and learning from folks who are going to wrestle with an issue maybe 3 to 5 years ahead of others. So I appreciate that. Sharra, really similar question. We're proud to have good student representation across the United States, but what is it like attending a university 3,000 miles away?
Main thing is the time zone. 3-hour time difference. But I mean, other than that, just the course in and of itself is so different than I think anything that's on the East Coast. It's hard to find a course that's geared for law enforcement, and the instructors, they have their advice or their expertise that they can lend to the program. It just makes it more richer and makes it a much better experience.
That's great. I'd put our faculty team, quite frankly, against anyone in the country for a practitioner-facing program. I appreciate that. It's definitely a privilege and a challenge to work alongside them. That's for sure. All right, Matt. Well, as kind of our local-ish student, clearly our program has taken a deep dive into a lot of California-centric issues. They might not be unique to the state, but they're happening in a pretty significant way in the state, whether it's homelessness or new technology or transparency legislation, RIPA documentation, whatever it might be. Can you recall a time in the program where you were dealing with an issue in class and on the discussion board that was directly relevant to what was happening in your agency that week or that month?
Well, that's probably the best thing about this program. There's not a single course that I was in that I haven't applied something from that course in my daily activities. You know, part of it's just the job that I have being in training and HR And then I also have my toe in the tactical world also. But, you know, looking back specifically to like LEPSL 530, the community engagement piece, especially when it talks about, when we were talking about implementing new technology, you know, I had never even heard about the smart streetlights in San Diego and the uproar it caused. But when I look at my own agency, I'm like, I think we could do better at the community engagement piece, particularly related to technology. Because we probably have some technologies in the city that people don't know about as far as cameras and our surveillance capabilities, which isn't super extensive in Santa Ana because we're 25 square miles. We can't have cameras everywhere. But specifically, like we're looking at implementing a drone technology right now. And I think that's one area where, like my agency at least, needs to start getting the community involved in that stuff so that we can stop or prevent having these uproars later. At least you give them some skin in the game to move forward. And if they come back and say, well, we never had a voice in this, well, you can say, well, you did, and we followed some advice.
I really appreciate that. That was my main takeaway from the course as well, especially Captain Jeff Jordan, was proactive transparency with the community, really in rolling out any policy. There were a lot of good lessons learned there. And this is the best part of my job. I try to take these lessons learned in a dynamic, challenging, emergency-driven profession that you all work in, and I get to apply them to my very slow-paced and boring academic life, but the lessons largely remain the same. As we wind down here a little bit, Han, any final words here for the law enforcement and public safety leadership community?
I guess it'd be more targeted towards other Canadians that might be looking at the program, but even though it's based in the US and the material might be more American, I think it's one of the unique programs that regardless of where you come from, that unique looking at the materials, the discussions are something that's relevant regardless of where you're from. So to those that I guess are other countries from UK or Canada, definitely look at this program.
Han, I really appreciate that. And the leadership class that we're in right now, I think I'd respectfully suggest a lot of those principles are universal. So I appreciate that endorsement quite a bit. Sharra, any ground we failed to cover? Anything you'd like to emphasize here?
No, again, just thank you for this opportunity, and this program is outstanding, and just all the information. I just wish I had started the LEPS program sooner.
That's great. You and me both. Matt, anything that you'd like to relay to the LEPSL community out there?
Well, I echo Sharra's comments that I wish I would have started earlier. You know, last time I was in college was in 1997, so starting it and then starting it online was completely overwhelming initially. You know, for those that are either just starting or midway through, enjoy the journey because it's well worth it. I mean, I couldn't be happier with what I got into and what I've taken from the program. It's just awesome.
I appreciate that. And there's deep appreciation on our side of the desk as well, that students like yourselves raise the bar for everybody. Clearly you were recognized by your peers, which again, I'd respectfully suggest is something pretty special. So we appreciate y'all carrying the torch for the program and everything you brought. I think, I know Matt has recently graduated, Sharra and Han looking at graduation shortly. You're the kind of students that, of course, it's bittersweet when that graduation day comes. Clearly that's but we're going to miss your voice in the classroom. So I really appreciate you taking the time to join us here, and everybody out there in the law enforcement and public safety leadership community. One more huge congratulations for Sharra Carter, Han Ho, and Matt Sorenson, our trifecta of discussion board most valuable players. It's an absolute privilege. And thanks for carrying the torch for the program, y'all. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you're on mute there, Kylie, as we finish it off here. Ready for the big finish, though.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And thank you all to watch the live and everyone watching the replay. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us. We'll see you all next time.